experience.
This is a quick fantasy football update for Tuesday, October 22nd. Reminder to all of you as well, if you haven't subbed to Mayo Media Network, do that, and you get into a draw for $500 cash. So why not? Monday Night Football, the Ravens win 41-31. The game was not as close as that score would indicate, as it was a lot of garbage time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they played their starters all the way through garbage time, which was bad news for Chris Godwin, who likely fractured his ankle and is likely done for the season. Mike Evans re-aggravated his hamstring in this game, and he's probably going to miss at least 2 weeks, maybe even up to a month, with his second hamstring injury of the season. That's usually what happens with the second hamstring injury within the course of 2 months. So we're now looking at Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, and Sterling Shepard as the starting trio of receivers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Trey Palmer was the one who filled in exclusively for Mike Evans. He's the best of the pickups. Shepard and McMillan will probably rotate between slot and the outside, although with Chris Godwin now being out for such an extended period, Shepard, being the smaller of the two, might end up in that slot role primarily. It's a very valuable role to have. We're not quite sure who's going to have it or if it's going to be a rotation as of yet, but all three are interesting pickups. I mean, for deeper leagues, you probably have to pick all of them up. If you play in a 14-team league, for a 10-team league, Trey Palmer is probably the flyer that you want to take. More on the wide receiver pickups in a moment. In the backfield, it was more Rachaad White than anyone else, but that was primarily due to the Bucs catching up the entire time. Early downs, the three of them, Tucker, Irving, and Rachaad White all split, and on third downs, it was 11 of 12 third downs played for Rachaad White. Of the goal line carries, Bucky Irving got 2 of the 3. Irving is the best of the bunch moving forward, as long as the Bucs don't just go into a complete tailspin and are losing in every single game moving forward. But playing in the NFC South, probably not going to be the case on that. I like Irving slightly more than White. Then Tucker is just kind of a handcuff at this point. Worth owning, but definitely not worth playing. In the other Monday Night Football game, Arizona wins 17-15 over the Chargers. Quentin Johnston, DJ Chark, and Hayden Hurst all missed the game for the Chargers, and that led to Justin Herbert throwing the ball all over the place, with 6 Chargers having more than 30 receiving yards in the game, including Simi and Will Disley, who had 11 targets. Jalen Reagor had a huge catch, then fumbled through the end zone. Hopefully those guys will be able to return at some point in the future, and I still like Quentin Johnston the best, as he would be the one who I would guess, in the receiving core at least, would end up with the majority of the targets, then Ladd McConkey, then Josh Palmer. None of them are fantastic plays and probably are not worth starting in a 10 or even 12-team league at this point, unless we see some consistency develop. If Hurst is out, Disley actually does become an interesting streamer. Zay Jones came back for Arizona. He didn't really do anything, but just led to fewer snaps from Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, who now kind of all become unplayable because the Cardinals simply just don't want to throw the ball all that often. Quick reminder as well, if you use code MAYO at Underdog right now, then not only will you get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000, you get your choice of free picks throughout the course of the week. Tuesday, LeBron James, free pick. Wednesday, Victor Wembanyama, free pick. Thursday, Matt Stafford, free pick. Use code MAYO right now at Underdog and get your hands on some of these free picks and boost up a ton of your entries. Okay? San Francisco, a lot of news here. Brandon Ayuk is now likely done for the season, so let's get rid of him. Deebo has pneumonia, is still in the hospital with fluid in his lungs, so he is probably not going to play in Week 8 against the Dallas Cowboys. CMC is unlikely to play this week. Week 10 is probably going to be the return for Christian McCaffrey, at least of right now. George Kittle is day-to-day with a foot sprain, and Kyle Shanahan, quote, says that hopefully, Juwan Jennings can be back for Week 8. So Jennings is the best pickup of anyone right now. Even if he misses Week 8, he's someone you're going to want to have long-term because he's going to fill in for Brandon Ayuk. Other than that, in Week 8, it could be Ricky Purcell and Chris Conley as the 2 starting receivers for the Niners. Conley will probably fill in for the Ayuk role. There's no real Deebo role to take over, but it could be just more looks for Purcell, and then maybe Ronnie Bell going down the line. It's not a great situation. You probably don't want to plug and play any of these guys. Purcell, just because of the talent as a first-round pick, would probably be the one that I would go to if I needed it, but I'd play Trey Palmer instead at this point. So when we think about pickups for the week, additionally, Jameson Williams is now potentially being suspended for 2 games due to PED issues. So he had the injury coming out, missed 8 games to begin his career. He had the 6-game gambling suspension last year. Now he's a PED suspension. And, every 4th week he does something huge, but now it looks like he's not going to play for 2 games. Tim Patrick would be the one I would pick up to play in his place. But I've updated the wide receiver rankings down in the description right now inside the newsletter link. So that's all updated. Juwan Jennings is still the number 1 pickup. Jerry Jeudy number 2. Trey Palmer now number 3. Then Romeo Doubs and Cedric Tillman. Those are the top 5. I have Ricky Purcell at number 6 after that. Tim Patrick is number 7 right now, but that's probably like a 1-2 week play. They're playing the Titans this week, and if he gets extra run in that game, it could be a decent spot, but I very much doubt that he'll rank inside the top 45 at receiver with no teams on bye. Other than that, you're looking at Jalen Tolbert, Keon Coleman, Bub Means, Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan, like those type of guys are the next in the rotation, but those are for deeper leagues. The big 5 would be the ones that I'd be trying to target this week off my waiver wire. More news, DK Metcalf, probably not going to play for Seattle this week. Probably an increase in snaps for Jake Bobo. It'd be JSN and Lockett, all pretty close to each other. Then Bobo quite behind that. Noah Fant expected to get some extra run in the receiving game and extra looks, and he has been trending upwards each of the past 2 weeks as well. They get the Bills in week number 8. Cooper Kupp has been taken off the injury report, and he'll return on Thursday Night Football against the Vikings. Tua returns to practice on Wednesday, presumably, and we'll see if he can play in Week 8. I have him as listed as in the rankings when those get released, unless something changes, which it might. He still needs to get himself reacclimated, up to game speed, and prove that he's healthy enough, but it's a huge boost to anyone on the Dolphins. You can start playing those guys again. Remember Tyreek Hill? The guy you took in the first round, maybe even first overall? Shouldn't have, but if you took him first overall or even second overall, you can play him with some amount of confidence in your lineup again. Jalen Waddle, risen from the dead. Get him back in your lineups too, as long as Tua is playing. Jayden Daniels is hopeful to play in Week 8 against the Bears. There's no structural damage to his ribs, but we'll see how he ends up at practice this week. It's not a certainty that he plays at home against the Bears in week number 8. Mariota would fill in his spot instead. Some other news, JUJU is not going to play with his hamstring injury in Week 8, so worthy. Watson, maybe he'll get a few looks this week instead of just doing cardio out on the field. Who knows? But we're getting decimated here, whether it be the Niners, the Chiefs, the Saints, the Buccaneers. The wide receivers are going down bigly this season. Jonathan Taylor is optimistic he could return to practice this week. That does not mean that he's going to play in week number 8. Adam Thielen could return to practice this week too, coming off his injury for the Carolina Panthers. And Tajay Spears could be back for week number 8. Would not count on it against the Lions, which would mean more Tony Pollard once again, but more updates on those guys as the practice reports come out throughout the week. Again, sub to the channel and getting that draw for $500. Additionally, what you can do is check out the link in the description for the newsletter where you can find all of the updates once more injuries happen. Okay? See you tomorrow.
Mayo experience! Experience!